Over 20 years in the making.
Spiky Bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Rob Bear from SpikyBits.com, and in this video, we're going to unbox and build and hopefully magnetize or some sort of modular option of all the Avatar of Canes, because there's actually three of these bad boys in here. So this is the new release this week. There is three different variants you can build here with three different heads and three different weapons. We're going to take a look at that here in a second. It's $100 retail from Games Workshop, but don't forget you can always get your hobbies for less from dicehead.com, Amazon, and then of course hopefully your local retailer. And if you really want to, you can of course buy it from Games Workshop, but we're not here to promote Games Workshop. They do their own promoting, I suppose, as far as that goes. So let's take a look inside the box. So $100 US is going to get you one sprue, one whole sprue. Very similar to some of the Tyranid monsters out there and other kits we've seen in the past, of course. But yeah, wow, one sprue. Okay, $100. I mean, at first I thought $100 was kind of cheap, in GW money, air quotes GW money. For this, but then once we got into it and we saw it was one sprue, I'm like, okay, all right, nervous laughter. It comes with an 80mm base as well to put the Avatar itself on, and we'll take a closer look at that stuff here in a second. But let's bust into the instructions, because this is I've kind of been studying these and I have a good idea of how we might be able to do this, at least make it modular, because you'll notice right here that there's three different neck options and you have to pick one to glue in. However, that being said, this blue section here I think is kind of middle of the road. It might leave enough room to kind of hang the hair over this right here, as opposed to blocking that one in, and then you might turn it and these don't hit, or they hit the shoulder pad and it might not work. As far as putting the model together, crazy slices it looks like, stuff like this. I always definitely say, hey, dry fit it first, then use your glue, then go ahead and just kind of build your jigsaw, your Easter chocolate bunny together and slowly kind of piece it together, but have the extra parts next to you. Like after I got to this point, I would probably grab the chest section and make sure and dry fit that and make sure that fits, because you don't want it to be a little off. And if you get one little piece off, then the rest of your whole like chocolate bunny becomes all shifted, and it's easy to do. Sometimes you don't notice it, sometimes your cat's like, hey, feed me, and then you go and sit back down and it's already glued and you're like, F, what do I do? And it's kind of a bugger to take apart. So just kind of take it slow, dry fit everything. That's what I'm gonna do here in a few minutes, and hopefully it all turns out okay. The front sections here are really wild. They look like the foot goes into a left part, and then the right piece will go over top of the lower leg right there, which is kind of interesting. I don't think we've seen anything like that in a decent past. Then the chest piece right there is going to lock in. You're going to have the other greave there, so a lot of building your chocolate bunny. And then once you get that done, you attach all this bling. Hopefully there's little nubs and easy places to kind of see where this stuff goes. It looks like they line up with the harness thing here. That being said, some of these little parts can be a little fiddly. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Now this is what I was looking at here. See, there's this flat surface, and then there's a reverse flat surface, which I'm assuming at, because we haven't looked at the sprues quite yet. But what I'm hoping is we can just plop a magnet in here and line it up with here and plop the other magnet in here, assuming this isn't too heavy for a small magnet, because I'm thinking we're only going to be able to fit like a 1/8 inch by 1/18 inch, or 1/8 by 1/16, which is, I guess, is roughly 3mm by 1mm, I want to say, in the metrics. So then you've got this greave bracer, I guess it's a bracer, that's going to go on, that's interchangeable. It fits with all these, so hopefully there's some tolerance here, so we don't have to glue that down, because if we want to swap between all of them, because right now they're all the same weapon. I get that, Rob, I know, but you don't know in the future. Do you want to future-proof your mini? If you're going to put it together, let's put it together right. I mean, that's what we're here for. So the shoulders, or the shoulder pads, looks like they're two parts. Gonna have to take a closer look at that, but it looks like they lock into these little nubs, so I like that. And then once you get the shoulders locked in, the front little Christmas wreath, I guess, locks in and glues into the middle. I thought it would glue into there, but that looks like it's just he's got a big old belly button, I guess, is all there is to say about that. 3 different head styles here that correspond with, of course, the 3 different necks that you choose. Hopefully we can choose, I think we're going to go with this one. And it's good middle of the road, and we'll be able to kind of switch those in. Now, what I couldn't tell here is they don't show the bottoms, but we'll take a look at that here in a second. I'm thinking by the look of this nub that there's a cavity recess. So in theory, you could just put the head back down on top of it, maybe a little blue tack. I don't know if you'll need magnets because I imagine this in gravity will kind of hold it down, but we'll find out here in a minute. And then the sections for the base, just glue right down, super easy. And then there's the stat line, like I said, they're all the same. They're all the same weapon. Each picture, it's the same picture. But I don't think any of that matters right yet. But like I said, in the future, you never really know if GW is going to change weapon profile. Taking a look at the sprue itself, your $100 sprue, I might add. This looks like all the numbered side. All this side has all the numbers. This side does not have any numbers, which is pretty standard. I really don't know what a lot of these things go to. These are very small. I did want to check the magnets, if we can find one of these flat areas here. Yep, I think I see one. So these are 1/8 by 1/16 inch magnets right here. I get these in 100 packs from the Magnet Baron. Of course, you can order them from wherever you want, but I always like supporting people in the hobby here. So this looks like it's nice and deep. And if we put a magnet right there, center it right in the middle, looks like that would work. And I don't know where the bit is that is going to go into. It's like, oh, there it is. So this is it right here. So it looks like it's just as deep. Yep, so that will probably work, I'm hoping, assuming that these things don't weigh a ton. So that looks to be in the works, and I don't see really any other gotchas. I mean, obviously, oh, let's see if we can look underneath these heads. So it looks like we'll have to put those together first to see if they plop on or not. It's really hard to tell without having them assembled and all the hair and the weight on the actual bit beforehand. But this base is really cool. It's got all the runes and everything on it. That's these look kind of fiddly, so I'm semi worried about those. But everything else looks pretty manageable, and you know, gonna be able to get in there and clip it off. It looks like it's gonna need to be kind of deflashed and mold lines removed probably before assembly, but we're not gonna have time for that because we're gonna do some other special stuff. And just like that, magic. So this guy, so a couple of things we need to talk about here real quick. So there are nubs, which is really nice for all his bling and things like that. I don't have him glued onto the base, just a little bit of blue tack, but he has a huge slot in his tactical rock foot up here. So it, for the most part, it should stay slotted in as long as I keep my finger on this. All his bling, there are little nubs and things, a little guidance. This one here is a little tricky because you kind of have to thread it through the flame, but nothing too crazy. Although I will say that every bit you clip off the sprue, you probably need to dry fit. You definitely need to take the little bit that's in, you know, the leftover part of the sprue that touches the part. You're gonna need to trim that down flush because everything's the, you know, the big Easter chocolate bunny here, and it all has to fit together perfect. So if you have those little burrs and things like that, it's gonna jack it up. So don't do that. Even up in here, even in the shoulders where the two pieces go together, like you can see down in here, well, I guess not, but there was a little part, I forgot a nub, and I had to go in there with the knife and kind of clean it out. So didn't actually scrape all the mold lines, but this is more of kind of to show you how it goes together and all the things we can do with it. You have to be very careful and to not touch these. They're locked in now and they're pretty dry, but before that happened, I was a little worried about it. So we are able to switch out the heads. On this one, there's a little alcove kind of underneath, and we used that very first one, like I said. So this one just kind of locks in with no worries. And then the Ares kind of God of War, I had to put a little blue tack in because it didn't quite, it has that recess, but it didn't quite stay locked in there. But he does with a little bit of blue tack, so that'll be just fine. And you can paint it and nothing will get in there. And then the bear head one, this one's a little different because it has basically a little square nub that you can see right there that goes into, and then the rest of it is kind of flat. So this one kind of doesn't work like the other two, but with a little bit of blue tack, or poster tack, whatever you call it in your locale, we should be able to. I think it's think it's on there. I can't really tell. I'm pretty sure it's on there. So I'm pretty sure it's on there, and you can see the hair just kind of flops over the shoulder pad there, and it doesn't jack up in the front right here too. So just use that very first neck piece, and then just use a little bit of blue tack, and I think it's all locked in. I can't really tell, but oh, there it is. You just have to lean it forward a little bit. Okay, so now we're locked in there. So in the pipe 5x5, good to go. And you can kind of see a little bit of the blue tack kind of squeezing out in the back there, but no big deal. Now over here, this worked great. These pieces are not heavy at all. What you can see here is a little bit of plastic putty. I used some plastic putty because I was kind of off when I drilled this one, so I kind of had to move it over a little bit, and I filled that area with the plastic putty. But what's cool about plastic putty is you can see right there, there was a gap, and I actually had to fill the gap with the plastic putty so that the spear sits pretty flush in there now. And the sword has a little bit of putty because I put it on there, and then I put this on just like that, and the magnet held it. So you can see right there, once you paint it, you won't be able to tell that's plastic putty, but it needed that because there was a noticeable gap, I guess, with this build, or maybe I didn't. I mean, it's pretty snug. So I'm not exactly sure why that gap was there, but there was a gap, but we filled it with a little bit of plastic putty, no big deal. Now, something I do want to mention to you, and you can't really see it in a lot of these areas here. Let me get this up close here. But there's a lot of gaps, but not really gaps because they're, you're going to fill them in with, make them look like lava effects and things, which isn't a big deal at all. But just be aware that it's probably a good idea to use some of this Tamiya thin cement if you're familiar with it and you're comfortable with it. Go ahead and use it because this stuff is great, and it's gonna, when you're building these eggshell kind of configurations, you're gonna want something that doesn't dry instantaneously, one, but something that is a little bit of a gap filler, and that's what it is. So it gets in there and it kind of fills a lot of those areas, because especially right here, you can kind of see on his leg there's a little bit of a gap because there's nothing, it's just straight area right there. So if you kind of clip a little too close, and there's some areas that need a little bit of gap filling too. I mean, that won't be noticeable once you prime it and stuff, and it's a little nitpicky, but if I had kind of put a little bit more glue in there, it would have just gone ahead and gap filled that. So just kind of something to keep in mind. So all the parts, just super easy to drill out with a little 1/8 by 1/16 inch magnet. Like I said, I believe that's 3 by 1 millimeters, and all three of them work just fine. And one magnet is enough to hold them in place. And then a little bit of blue tack, and you can build up each of the heads. Just use that very first neck piece. Actually, I'll show you on here which neck piece. I think it was the blue shaded one. So it was the blue, and that is going to be the very first, very first one. I made some notes. Very first one right there, the blue one, is gonna fit all three of them. Also, just a little FYI, when you're assembling this front piece right here, this piece, before you put this piece onto it, is a little flimsy, so you're going to want to kind of make sure that these two connect very well to get a nice seal and kind of push out that chest cavity, because this one kind of cantered in when I put the top on and I didn't notice it at first. And if I'd been using regular super glue, I probably would have ruined the model right off that step right there. So it has a tendency to kind of not hold its spot right there. So it's that lower piece and then this upper piece right here when you get to it. So I think the Avatar is really cool, and he isn't quite as big as I thought he would be. I thought this would be a 100 mil base. It turns out it's only an 80 mil base. So just to give you an idea, this is a Space Marine on a 32. It's a noticeable difference, 100% for sure. But if you've ever seen the forge-rolled one, I think this is about the same size as the forge-rolled one. Here's how it compares to something on a 60 mil base like Robbie G. And so, it's getting up there. And then something even bigger. I wish I had a Bloodthirster that was on the normal size base, because this guy's always seems to be fighting a Bloodthirster, but I don't. All I have is Mortarion. and this is how big they are going to compare. So Mortarion's obviously very, very, very bigger and chunkier. I mean, the Bloodthirster would be too with the wings. He's at least up to Mortarion's head, with the axe much higher. So just to kind of give you an idea, you know, where that's at, the Demon Primarchs are still bigger than the Avatar for sure. But other than that, really cool build. It goes together very, very intuitively. I don't think there was any super gotchas, and I definitely recommend, if you're going to put this together and spend 100 of your hobby dollars on this bad boy, go ahead and magnetize it. It's super easy to do. It literally took less time to magnetize it than it did probably. It didn't take any time at all, to be honest. And I built these heads first just to double check that they would lock into there. But yeah, other than that, just build the instructions just like they come in the instruction book right there, because there really isn't any advantage or disadvantage to going around or skipping any steps. But just watch this area right here when you put that together, and I think you'll have a pretty good build. And you know, don't glue them down to the base, and you can paint the base separate. Oh, and if you want to put some texture and stuff around here, don't forget you can always get this really cool stuff, Liquitex resin sand. So it'll go right up to the lip. It won't recede or anything like that. It'll give you a nice good texture to go ahead and paint. So you don't have this, like, you know, just flat area around the runes and the wraith bone or stone area, whatever you decide to kind of paint it there. So that is it for this one. I've talked way too much. Hopefully we'll have another video out with the Shining Spears, and then the other separate releases, which were also in Eldritch Omens box. So we'll probably just use the footage from past Rob in the Eldritch Omens box right there. So at the end of the day, yeah, it's a lot of money. $100 of your which seems cheap in GW money, but once you compare them to some of the larger miniatures like Mortarion and stuff, you know, it's well, I don't know. It might definitely be worth voting with your hobby dollars on this one, as you know, that's kind of where we're at these days. So anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget, you can always get your hobbies for less from dicehead.com, Amazon, and of course, hopefully your local game store. If you liked that video feature, consider supporting us over at patreon.com and get back in the mail each month a miniature crate full of some of the stuff we review here, as well as some of the top 3D artist designs out there too, to help support what they're doing. Plus, discount coupon codes from some of those same manufacturers. They're yours to keep, whether you cancel or stay on. It's totally up to you. Obviously, we want to keep you as happy as possible. So check it out over at patreon.com/spikybits.